Well, what are you thankful for this year, Leander? It's the Thanksgiving. Today we're supposed to talk about what we're grateful for or what we're thankful for. As we talk about grateful. PayPal in the tank in the toilet, but still.
I'm so grateful that we get PayPal at a discount. Like best Thanksgiving ever.
That's true.
Best Thanksgiving ever.
No, we actually don't have Thanksgiving in Europe here, so.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody in America.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right, I'm just going to start off and share at least my screen. Why are we talking about PayPal, right? So everyone sees this, I assume. PayPal is $188.71, and maybe 3 months ago it was almost 300. Am I right? 2 months, 3 months?
Yep.
So it's really fallen a lot. And, Square's sort of also falling. Maybe we'll do a different episode about Square, but they're also taking a smaller hit than PayPal.
Well, at how much market cap did they lose? Because they're at 221 billion right now.
I think they were over 300 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And now they're at 221, right?
A lot of money.
Yeah. I believe me and Lee both bought it very heavily. But I'll go to my numbers a little bit later, but I do think it's actually fair valued. I don't think, after I did some research, I don't think it's completely undervalued for, I guess, the current state. Going forward, I still see my double and all that, but just to make it clear, I think they're actually at a fair value. So it's not like you're getting a massive discount if you just look at the price to sales and all that. The other thing I'll point out is we're going to go over this chart. I don't want to hide anything, but that's a little bit later. So anybody who wants to click on just the chart stuff can click in our chapter markers.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that later. But one of the main reasons I feel that they're taking this big hit is because they broke up with their girlfriend eBay. Do you guys want to briefly chat about like the eBay thing?
Sure, I can actually share my screen real quick and I can show you guys why it doesn't matter. Like,
nice.
Get your girlfriend eBay.
Well, I mean, this is the big hit that they took to their revenue, right?
Yes and no. It doesn't actually matter that much nowadays. So they share that in their investor deck, in their third quarter report. Can you see it?
I do see it, yes.
Yeah.
It's nice and big.
So that's the total payment volume with and without eBay. And just be careful here. These are all 3 quarters, like 5 years back, and these are like all subsequent quarters. So we have to compare these 3 numbers here. So in the third quarter 2020, there was a $18 million gap. And we're down now to a $10 million gap in total payment volume. Now, the important part here is, okay, that's the volume. What's the revenue? Well, in the third quarter last year, they still got a couple of $100 million coming from eBay, right? So here is excluding eBay. Here is with eBay total revenue. Mm-hmm. So pretty meaningful. And now we are down to what, like 240 million something. So it narrows down to a couple of $100 million, maybe a couple of dozen $1 million going forward. And it doesn't really matter in the long run. Like they are over it, right?
The missing the revenue that they could have had is also what's affecting people's perception of why, especially why PayPal tanked so hard, because it was a pretty hard hit, right? Even though you're showing this, you could see though it was how much was that? 5, 6, 7, almost $800 million a quarter ago of last year. I'm sorry, and now it's only a couple of $100 million. But so it's like we're feeling the loss of that $600 million, right? Because if they had that 600 million,
it is a bit of an overreaction, though. You know that whenever you miss earnings, like if you beat it by a penny, it's the greatest thing in the world. If you miss it by a penny, the markets always overreact.
Yeah, obviously they missed this revenue, but that's behind, right? It's already decided, and now we're looking into the future. Stock markets look into the future and price that in. So I'm not getting why the stock is really tanking so much right now.
At this point, you're saying at this point at the $200 point, or because there's different levels that we were buying at, obviously, and I was buying it at as it was tanking from like basically 230. I started to go in heavy. 200, I went even heavier, and 185. Yep. I slowed down, but I still bought my call option, my shares. And the next level, if it hits it, I don't know why it would, but 173-ish, 72-ish is possible if people are doing the technical thing. So I don't know why it's continuously now. At this point, it's just like, I think it's momentum, right? At this point, it's like something is dropping. People want out because they're going to be down in their position at some point.
And in the US, you guys can kind of tax loss harvest, I guess.
You can't do that in Europe?
Yeah. And in Switzerland, we don't have that. We actually don't have a capital gains tax, so it doesn't matter. But
you have no capital gains tax. So if you make 400% return, you keep all of it.
No, we have a wealth tax, so it doesn't actually matter whether we have stocks or cash. We just pay a wealth tax, not that high, but we pay it each and every year. So obviously, when you double your position, you have double the wealth, right? So if my stocks have a value of $100,000, I'm paying taxes on that. If it goes down to $50,000 next year, so PayPal was cut in half, let's say, I pay taxes on the $50,000, but it's like 0.7% or so not that big of a deal. Everyone in the US or any other country with a capital gains tax that can offset a capital gain with a capital loss now makes the gets the thought, okay, we're getting towards the end of the year, let's tax loss harvest this thing, right? Because it's dropping, let's offset that with another capital gains kind of revenue that I got from selling a huge gain like Tesla or something like that.
And I have done that already, by the way. Your strategy, there are certain positions that I'm like, they're not going to go up for 6 more months. So I'm like, let me just move on. If I want them back in January, February, and I'll just buy them back. And that way, you're right. I can take some losses against my gains. Okay, so back to the PayPal. Romeo Power is one of them. That's a whole other episode. That's a terrible one.
Very good foods.
But can you tell us? Yeah, very good foods. Piece of junk. Okay. And Leander warned me about it.
You hear his voice there when you're on the sell button, but they're not making any money.
No, they're definitely not making any money. So let's return back to PayPal. Can you tell us why they dropped? Because what was the EPS and the revenue miss? Like, why did they actually drop so hard? Do you have those stats in front of you?
$1.11 non-GAAP EPS. So that's a 4% growth.
The earnings per share was a beat. That was a beat.
4 cents beat, and what's that? A $50,000 $1,000 miss on revenue. Like, wow.
Well, I think, is that 50? Is that 100 million?
No, it's millions. So it would be
yeah.
It'd be 5 million. They 5
50
billion.
million. Yeah, 50 million.
50 million, right?
50 million, 50 million, right?
Yeah.
50 million. When you're talking about billions,
that would be funny if it was a $5,000 miss.
Sorry, 50 million.
Right, it was like one transaction didn't go through before the quarter.
Yo, I could have done that for you, PayPal. You
I know. Just let me know. Right, we'll just pay each other. Just send money back and forth.
But so this miss is small. You're right. But still, I think the eBay, even though it's getting to be less of a big deal, it is a big deal to a lot of people. And remember, everybody was up a tremendous amount since 2020 on if you bought back in March of 2020, what was PayPal trading at? I can go back in the chart real quick. Here it is. March 2020, it was $82 approximately. So even if you didn't buy it that low and you bought it somewhere at the bottom of this orange trend, which I've talked about a lot, so it was $100. So you were up almost 3x in a year and a half. So I think that's one of the big reasons people are like saying, let me just take my profits on this.
Also, the Bitcoin network for the first time overtook PayPal in terms of number of
transactions.
Yeah.
Or the amount of money moving across it. Yeah. But the thing is, this is actually, we'll get into this, but the bull case for me is that they're also doing crypto now. A lot of people are discounting the whole crypto side of it because we're not even done with this crypto thing. Like, this is just the beginning of PayPal and Venmo making money on crypto. Okay, so I guess let's get into maybe the bull case of PayPal. And there's a couple of things which I started talking about. One was crypto. PayPal launches its super app. If you guys downloaded it, combining payments, savings, bill pay, crypto, shopping, and more. So I think this is the thing that everybody thinks of PayPal, even probably a lot of investors. I think they think of it like it's just a way to pay for things, right? I think they're missing the whole side of it that they're trying to go into is like these credit cards. Venmo has credit cards now. They're starting to do these quasi banks or neo banks, whatever you want to call it. They're partnering with a bunch of banks, and obviously shopping. They're selling you now Bitcoin and Ethereum. Do you guys have a take on this? Is this a significant revenue generator, you think, for the future, or what?
I think so, because the whole crypto space is only in its infancy, I think. And when you compare to, for example, Square and Cash App, they are now doing a vast portion of their revenue is coming from Bitcoin alone, excluding all the other cryptos. Though they're not making huge amounts of profits off of that. They're essentially selling it at near break even, 2% gross margin. But through the volume alone, they're already making a couple of dozen $1 million in gross profits. And obviously, that's a huge deal also for Venmo. And I think they kind of had to do it in case to keep up with Square and Cash App. And
well, besides the crypto, what about the other stuff that they're doing? Like the whole super app idea that they're going to be doing some banking things and bill pay and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I think it's convenient. Though I don't have Venmo, I don't live in the US, but do you?
I do have Venmo. I use it all the time.
Yeah, it's great. It took a while for me to it was sort of a novelty at the beginning, but now I'm seeing the real benefit. Yeah, and just to add to what you're saying, I think this super app PayPal thing is a response to SoFi. Actually, SoFi is trying to become a financial center, and
also
I think
super app, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to. I don't know if they offer. I don't know if PayPal's offering loans or home loans or anything like that yet.
They are. I get notices all the times for credit cards and loans from PayPal, like business stuff and all the time. They're actually sending mail.
That's what I think they're
mail
going.
Stuff.
Yeah, that's where I think they're going, because I mean, it just makes sense to keep people in the ecosystem. I do think they have a branding problem because, like you said, PayPal was just a service. It was a plugin on eBay that made paying easier on eBay, and that's what it was. So they have to actually fight against. It's going to take a while, in other words, for them to convince the public of what they are. They need to get a bunch of new people that only know them as this super app. But guys like you and me, I don't see PayPal as that. I don't see PayPal as that service. I would use SoFi, and I think that's part of their problem. I mean, and SoFi was up 26% in October,
and PayPal's down 40%.
Right. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think it's just convenient to have all the or almost all the financial services in one app. I think this thought is very valuable for the company. And as they have over 400 million users, it's just a huge leverage for them. So every service that they introduce that you just had on desktop or just online, or every new service like crypto that is completely new that they add, they can leverage this user number. So I think this is very interesting and convenient for consumers.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. If you don't mind, I'm going to go to a video. Having more of these things in the app, like crypto, is actually making their users more engaged in the app. So even I tend to now I'm looking, I didn't buy any crypto on that app yet because I actually don't advise it. I advise you go to a Coinbase or someone like that.
Own the coins yourself. Yeah.
Own the coins, have the keys. But a lot of people don't care about that, honestly. All they want to do is, I've heard of Bitcoin, I've heard of Ethereum. And these are the people they're getting, and they're spending more time in the app. So let's just listen to this guy. His name is Jose Fernandez de Ponte, PayPal Senior Vice President and General Manager of Blockchain Crypto. And he's on a crypto podcast. This is remember, 2 years ago, would you picture PayPal on a crypto podcast? And this is a big one.
And so as people are probably aware, your CEO, Dan Schulman, famously said that after you guys offered that, users who had bought crypto on PayPal tended to log into the platform twice as often. And his expectation was that this would make the users more loyal and increase the amount of overall payments they made through the app. Have you seen that play out, that people who buy crypto on PayPal then actually just make more payments in general with PayPal?
We see that it's actually is a two-way street, and that's one of the beauties of the platform. We see more engagement from our crypto users. As Dan has said, we see a very high increase in engagement with the app. And now we are also seeing it work the other way around. As you know, we have very significantly now revamped the PayPal app and adding a number of new services in our strategy to become a super app. And what we are seeing now is one of the side effects is we are seeing the improvements in the super app drive more engagement on the crypto side. And we are seeing significant increases in crypto adoption in our base since we revamped the app. So it's one of the benefits of being in this ecosystem. There are network effects between different PayPal properties. And we see that on PayPal. And when we go international, we see that when we light up the product on the Venmo side. And we see significant effects on both sides. So the answer is yes. We are seeing both more engagement on the PayPal side, but also activity on PayPal is driving more engagement for our crypto users.
Okay, that's one clip I wanted to play. Let me play a second one.
Crypto for the first time.
There are some new ones, But most, as I said, our value prop is a lot about for people who know and trust the PayPal brand. So our typical adopter is someone who's comfortable using PayPal. They are using PayPal for their payment activity. They see that there is an offering on crypto, and they have been crypto curious for a while, and they tend to adopt more. So logically, we've only been in the market for about a year. So it makes sense for us that the early users tend to be more on the PayPal population, and it's an engagement activity more than a user acquisition activity.
The two items was one, the engagement, basically, and two, they've only been doing it for a year, and maybe three, if we project that out, how do you think that's affecting them? Like going out, as PayPal becomes actually a crypto platform, that will they only have these new users and then they'll leave, or will they get new users that are actually crypto users? I don't know.
I mean, as he said, PayPal already has this large user base, already has millions and millions of users with money on the platform. And the only thing that they need in order to deploy more cash into their system is, for example, a new feature that gives them a reason to do so, right? So for example, I can buy cryptos. Okay, another 10K on my PayPal or on my Venmo, boom, 10K in Bitcoin, right? So I think this gives them also a very high return on investment. So every new feature that they add really pays off for them because they can leverage that user base.
So you think it's like right now, so they're tanking. So back to the stock. Are people taking into account this whole crypto thing or not? What do you feel?
Not currently, I guess. Like they're flying a little bit under the radar. I think I also haven't seen one crypto mention in their latest report. Like I can screen for it real quick, but
yeah, it'd be nice. I'm curious how many of those 400 million people have bought crypto. I don't know if they break that out.
Actually, I don't think the market's pricing in crypto at all. I don't think until crypto's really legitimized, I don't think people consider it. I don't think the markets are going to consider it or analysts are going to consider it. There's still a lot of volatility in crypto, and we both know that this bull run's going to end. And when it ends, it's only going to be a negative, right? Anybody associated with crypto is going to be a negative. Like you see Coinbase stock going up and down, even though they're only making money on the trades, but it's tracing the price of Bitcoin just because of the way that people look at the industry, right? So a few years out, we know that the next halving won't be till 2024. So this would be the year that we would see the positive effect. And then in the subsequent years, as crypto comes down and starts tanking and goes out of favor, they're not going to want to be promoting that they're not going to want to be promoting their crypto connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's also new for them. So they probably don't really know what to expect in the long run. And so I also think that they're sandbagging it. So the only slide that they're mentioning, so page 7, that's the only slide in the whole investor presentation where they mention crypto. First time
users have increased 15%.
Period. End of story.
So, okay, let's parse that. First time users have increased 15% in crypto. What does that mean? Or just in the app in general?
I think that means that they got more first time, 15% of their first time users came in from crypto. That's what I think it means. That 15% of their new customers came in to buy crypto.
As opposed to use their other services.
Right. And crypto got them in the door, basically.
If you're right, then, 15% is a lot of users to get.
How many new users did they get? It's 15% of what?
They actually do go over that. They do go over the number of users in some other slide, or at least the total payment volume. And their total payment TPV, it increased pretty drastically from a year ago even. I think it's somewhere up there. They had the actual slide. And that's not only crypto, but just to show that they're still growing pretty big, that their total TPV increased year over year. Where's it? TP 26? Is it 26% growth? Is that what that is?
Yeah. And 24% at fixed rates. Yeah.
So that is massive growth, by the way. It's not only crypto. That's not the crypto part, but still like 26% growth for total payment volume. That means people are using PayPal more, not less, right? Yeah. So the lower this goes, back to the stock price. If this hits somewhere around 150, 160, how do I not try to double my position? I don't know. Yeah. I have to figure this out.
The thing,
people use PayPal more often. It's right here, right on the slides. So
current engagement, total payment volume, 44.2. That's million, right? Correct? Or is that billion? What is that?
That's billions. So total number of payment transactions, and that's the transaction per account, I guess.
Number of payment transactions has been slowly increasing since, even a year ago. So even in 2021, where everyone thinks PayPal is like losing their mojo, you can see their number of payment transactions is actually going up.
Just looking ahead into the future, 5 years in the future, are people going to be doing more crypto transactions or less? I think it's going to be more. I think people are going to be doing more. And so that hurts the fiat industry. Like that hurts people like Visa, MasterCard that only deal in fiat. And so you could make a case that this is actually bad for them. Like, in other words, it's like looking at BlackBerry sales the last year before the iPhone came out, right? You say, oh, but they're doing great. Everything's fine. There is something that's disrupting this current ecosystem of money. And like, I mean, I sent you the link yesterday that, Turkey, the citizens of Turkey are dumping all their money into crypto because the currency has gone down so much. I mean, this is only going to increase, right? So I'm just thinking 5 years ahead, if this crypto really does disrupt the fiat or the monetary system, companies like PayPal are going to suffer because there'll just be less fiat transactions.
Wait,
and if they don't capture that crypto market,
okay, I see what you're saying.
BlockFi is going to get that. There's going to be other services that are crypto related. They're going to get that. Maybe even Venmo is going to get that, but I don't know that that's going to be PayPal. So I think this is just to throw that out there as a potential real negative catalyst in terms of disruption that we might not see coming for them specifically.
Well, this is a thing that I want to bring to your point, actually. They're also creating something that most people don't do. There are a couple of people who do this. You are starting to, at this point, if you want to use your crypto in your account, you can go use it to buy regular products from all their merchants that accept PayPal or Venmo. You can buy it in crypto. The person getting that money will never know. It'll just be converted to fiat immediately. So they're actually starting to take a piece of that market, which I don't even know if that's really started. You're literally going to have your Ethereum. You're going to go buy whatever you buy in PayPal. What do we usually buy in PayPal? I don't even know. Some digital goods, probably some NFTs.
Those NFTs, right? That gift. You bought that gift.
Well, whatever you're going to buy with PayPal. I actually buy a lot of stuff with PayPal, but you can go just use your crypto. And to your point, this is why they're doing all of this stuff, because 5 years from now, even if there's like a 10, 20% difference, I don't think fiat's going away, by the way, but 10, 20% of people who use crypto, all right, eventually Dogecoin is the standard, right? So,
but if we're talking about a bull run, people will be sitting on lots of profit. So if you've got a lot of profit and you're sitting on profit, say you bought your crypto with PayPal, like you said, I don't recommend it, but if you have a 10x on crypto and you want to use some of it, PayPal eliminates the problem. Using PayPal eliminates the problem of the speed. Like that's the biggest problem with the Bitcoin network, is it's too damn slow. You're not going to sit there for 10 minutes at the cash register waiting for the block to process that transaction. But PayPal can do that instantly and then do the crypto transaction on the
whatever
blockchain in the back end, right? Yeah. And then calculate whatever the taxes are, and you'll have to. So it's something that could benefit them. But I just feel like we talk a lot about crypto's price, but we don't talk about how it's disrupting the payment system in general. And that's something that, okay, crypto's going to go up and down, but that whole ecosystem is now intruding on just typical fiat payment systems. And so we don't know what that effect's going to be. I don't know what that effect's going to be, but I think it's going to be something. And I don't think anyone's talking about that.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone's pricing it like we keep going back to into actual PayPal. And Square, I do believe, if you want to talk about Square for a second, Lee, because you know more about it, but it seems like they're pricing more the Bitcoin and crypto into Square, even though Square doesn't really deal with other cryptos except Bitcoin. They only I don't think they sell Ethereum and Cardano and Doge and all this.
But it's because they're holding so much. I don't think it's because of their payments. It's because they're holding so much.
Yeah, it's a couple of $100 million that they hold on their balance sheet.
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look up how much crypto Square has.
But I think investors almost overvalue or overstate the value of Bitcoin for Square. Like all that Square does is through the Cash App, it facilitates the buying process for consumers for buying Bitcoin. And they're doing so, as talked about like a couple of minutes ago, at a near break even, 2% gross margin. So that's the only thing that they do. And they also bought a couple of $100 million worth of Bitcoin for their own balance sheet, right? And that's basically it. So they just want that consumers can buy or buy and sell Bitcoin, right?
From what you're saying, I would say PayPal's its current valuation against Square, and the fact that they're doing more with crypto, meaning that you can buy multiple coins. I forgot, Litecoin is there, Ethereum, and I'm sure they're going to be adding more. It seems like they're more concerned with not being right about Bitcoin, like Jack Dorsey. He just wants to be right about Bitcoin. Okay. And the PayPal CEO, Dan Schulman, he wants to be right and making money. That's
Yep.
once again, maybe I'm interpreting it wrong because I do have
He'd
Square
rather be
stock.
rich than right.
Dan Schulman would rather be rich than right.
Cryptoverse.
Yeah.
According to Bitcoin Magazine, Square holds nearly 8,027 Bitcoins acquired at an aggregate price of 220 million at an average price of 27,000 per coin. So if they have 8,027 Bitcoins and the current price of Bitcoin is 58,878 times 58,878, they now have, what is that?
Or 72.
100,000. They now have $472 million in Bitcoin holdings. So they've doubled their position. They've doubled.
I wonder if that's why they're being priced higher. Well, maybe not only that, but can you give me I'm curious because Lee, you know about this.
Yeah.
How many users do they have as opposed to PayPal? You said PayPal has 400 million plus. Square has how many users?
Merchants or Cash App users?
Well, I don't know because the merchants, I guess we can go into both, but PayPal has lots of merchants too. So what is the comparison? I think the statistic from their quarterly was PayPal has 75% of the top 1,500 merchants. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Square says Cash App has 70 million transacting users last year.
So they have 70 million and PayPal has 400 million.
Venmo users. These are just Cash App, and Venmo users are at what, like 60 or so?
Basically, I think we already said it. PayPal has over 400 million total users, basically including Venmo and PayPal together. So my point is, does it look like PayPal has way more users?
Definitely. PayPal is bigger because Square is mainly based in the US. They have also activities in Australia, UK, and now they're also starting in France, for example. But PayPal is a much more global company, right?
And you mentioned though they're still growing. So I want to find this. But in Europe, is Venmo in Europe or no?
Venmo isn't available in Europe, EEA, or EU countries.
So that's a whole other market they have to go to.
Yeah,
Revolut and Wise. Revolut and Wise are the most popular digital banking there, and money transferring services like WorldRemit, Remility, PaySend, TransferGo, and others are an excellent choice. So Venmo is not available in.
Square is in a similar situation, right? They have a pretty high market saturation in the US already. They're sharing it a little bit with PayPal and Venmo. So these are, I guess, the top two in the US, and now they're kind of turning their head. Oh, there's Europe. Let's go there. And it's tricky also due to regulation. But I can see some opportunity there definitely for both.
Well, PayPal's already further into Europe than Square, but Venmo isn't. But it seems like it's close behind because, PayPal is there. I mean, they already know all the regulators. They know all the people there they have to know. So I think basically I'm getting to like a lot of people seems like they're being bearish on PayPal, while they possibly will grow more than me and you think. And I'm only assuming if we go to the growth numbers at some point, I'm assuming around 17 to 18% growth, compounded, pretty much going straight forward.
Yep.
So it could be more than that. I'm thinking like if all of these things that we're discussing, like the crypto portion, they're not in Europe and probably multiple other countries, that they still have this big growth trajectory that I think a lot of a lot of investors are discounting.
And how long until Venmo disappears and it gets absorbed into this super app?
I don't know if they'll do that because as long as they're making money off of it, why would they? And they just
for brand recognition, and because people look, when you get on Venmo, there's very limited options. If you make Venmo a button on the PayPal app, now they have these other buttons, loans, crypto, whatever it is. There's other things that you can upsell.
To upsell, I know what you're saying, but
get them on that platform.
I think they can get you there anyway without doing a whole different thing. I think Venmo's like a brand right now. Basically, PayPal is becoming a conglomerate, and they might change their names just like Facebook changed to Meta and Google changed to Alphabet. Because they just picked up
turn their name to Crypto.
Well, Lee, maybe you know this more, but they picked up another company, Paidy. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I guess it's a Japanese company. They acquired them for cash. What was it, like 2.7 billion or something like that? Yeah, 2.7 billion in cash. And as PayPal is so profitable, that's essentially just, 2 quarters worth of free cash flow. So snap of a finger, they acquired Paidy, and it's a buy now, pay later app from Japan. And they're also kind of targeting, Japan, that's a huge online shopping market, they're saying here in their investor deck, with a couple of $100 billion in e-shopping, e-commerce. but they're also very cash heavy. So they want to kind of switch that to go digital as well. And that's also in contrast to for example, Square. They are going to acquire Afterpay for $27 billion, so literally 10 times more. And obviously, they're not only after the buy now, pay later feature, but also after the merchants and users.
Did PayPal get away with like getting this so cheap compared to what Square paid? 10 times more for a company? Like, is it worth 10 times more in your opinion, or no? They got ripped off.
Numbers will tell. I guess they're paying essentially for the user numbers and merchants that they want instantly get as well. And PayPal really just got the buy now, pay later feature, but not really a lot of users or anything. And PayPal, I guess they already are offering the buy in 4 tranches option, right? But that's not the true buy now, pay later, right?
Well, so you brought up another bull case, basically. So now they're also doing buy now, pay later at some point, besides the buy in the trenches, the 4 different payments. Yep. So they're going to have in the super app everything you basically want. They never want you to leave the app. That's what they're going for.
Yep.
Yeah.
So make some super app speculations. If you're the CEO of PayPal, what do you do in the next couple of years? Understanding what we're talking about, the totality of the market, global, crypto. What do you do? Now you're acquiring all these companies. It's not just about acquiring them and letting them operate autonomously. There's got to be a master plan. It's very similar to like, you know what it is? It's like, I try to think about it like when like Paramount buys another studio, or like Disney purchases Marvel, and then like Disney bought Star Wars, Disney bought Marvel. Then what do they do? Then they have a Marvel, then they bring the Marvel characters into Disneyland and they start to monetize them that way. They start to bring them all into one big family.
Or there was a rumor that they want to acquire Pinterest and they let it drop like hot like potato, right? So I think that they could be interested in creating a e-commerce platform as well, obviously.
That's one.
What did you think about the Pinterest thing? So I like the e-commerce thing, but the Pinterest thing that you brought up, did you think that was a good idea or a bad idea?
It was interesting. Probably they were about to overpay quite a lot for it, but Pinterest also has like 400 million users or something. Am I wrong? Something
I don't know.
And they stopped kind of growing recently in the last 2 quarters. So it could make sense for them to kind of try to grow in another manner by merging or being acquired by PayPal. And PayPal, on the other hand, they don't really offer online or e-commerce. They just essentially the fintech provider for their partners like Amazon that they now start a pretty substantial partnership. Yeah, it was interesting, and I can't really see behind the scenes why that didn't follow through.
Thinking of just thinking out loud off of what you said, I think that's true. I think that's a great idea. And I would say that they acquired Pinterest to turn it into an Etsy.
They didn't acquire it. The shareholders had a revolt.
I'm saying they would acquire it to turn it into an Etsy, make it a marketplace where it's kind of like YouTube. YouTube is a marketplace for videos, and they monetize it on both sides. They monetize the content creators and as well as the users. And that would make sense if it's like Pinterest brought to you by PayPal. But I think a smarter play would be to go after Etsy. That would be such a smart move. And I just looked it up. There is no direct connection between Pinterest and Etsy. If they did, I would say that's what the real market is. But because if they're not partnering with eBay, and eBay was so good for them, they're just going to basically create their own eBay, their own market.
Well, they did just partner with Amazon. So this is another thing not being counted in that. And there's a reason for this too. I don't know if you heard, but Amazon's going to have them as an option to check out with Venmo. All right. And Venmo, we discussed this briefly, but they're becoming like also a super app in itself. They're going to have credit cards that you can get points, you can get rebates, you can buy crypto cheaper. It's doing a lot of stuff. This is happening because Amazon recently came out, if you guys read this, and is kicking off Visa in Europe. Did you guys read this?
Yeah, they're going to MasterCard.
Wow.
Well, but they're also going to MasterCard and Venmo. So they're doing both. So basically Visa's getting the boot because they keep raising their prices in terms of costing the customers more money, the transaction fees.
Yeah.
And apparently Venmo keeps the transaction fees reasonable, I guess, if they're going to take them on.
Obviously, as they are so big and so profitable, they have margin power. So they can lower their fees and gain even more market share, because a lot of these other fintech providers like Afrm, to kind of stick with the buy now, pay later example, they're not profitable. Like if they want to lower their fees, they lose even more money. And PayPal just goes, 1.3 billion dollars in free cash flow. Who cares? Right. Let's get Amazon on board. Let's get Walmart on board, and so on. Right.
Yeah, and they have all these big partners. But here, I want to bring this up because this is interesting. Let's bring this back to the cash. So this is funny because we're talking about PayPal and it's worth a 220 billion. Mm-hmm. People are discounting all of this stuff, the buy now, pay later, the crypto. Let's look at a couple of companies' market caps. And actually, and this went down a bit, but almost $40 billion for Affirm. So is the buy now, pay later option for PayPal, the Paidy, that thing that they bought, is that worth $40 billion at some point? Because they're going to get a lot of this business? That's one thing. Here's another thing. Coinbase. How much is Coinbase worth? If they start eating into eventually some crypto, right? Coinbase, they're worth $81 billion. And in fact, I hold Coinbase. I think they're going higher than $81 billion. So now this is just a crypto provider and a crypto platform, and they're doing other things in the background too. I don't want to make it seem that they're only selling crypto and buying crypto. So they're doing other things, but custody. But still, it seems like these market caps are pretty huge. Mm-hmm. And PayPal seems to have their foot in the door in like all these businesses. I don't know if we want to bring up another example, but what if they get into stocks? Like, what if it's a real super app?
Just look at Robinhood's then. Look at Robinhood, because Robinhood is just stocks.
And they're actually down right now, right? And that's 23 billion. So my point is, I think it's obvious, right? Like, are we all totally underestimating what this massive company can even become bigger? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. That's also my part of my bull case is that you have all these companies like a Coinbase and Affirm and the Robinhood. That's not Proxy in one app, right? And that's also why I really like Square. There you already can trade stocks, and on Venmo you can't, right? So they both have room to grow. And for example, Square also offers a lot of customer relationship management tools for small businesses. So for example, you can build websites and online shops and do the logistics and so on. So I really like that because you all have everything in one place, one ecosystem. And as you said, there are tons of reasons to not get out of it anymore, right? You really, once you're in it, you can't get out almost.
Is PayPal not doing that, helping the small business owner? I don't know.
They're terrible. I stopped using them. They're just awful.
For small business?
Yeah, like I use them. I was doing payments between, like there's specific ways that you pay merchants and you pay people. And if you try to pay a merchant, the fees are ridiculous. The holding period for they lock up the money for 14 days. I had a whole situation with somebody that was paying me from Hawaii and they overpaid and I could not return the money without paying another fee because it was just like, it was an accident. He did it as a business versus a personal. And it took, I'm not even kidding, it took 6 weeks. And the poor guy, I'm like, I'm not trying to take your money. I can't give it back to you. And I was on the phone with them. We both were on the phone and they were like, there's nothing we can do unless you pay a massive fee. And that was it. That was it. That was the end of PayPal. I said, I'm never using PayPal again. Just close it down.
Okay. Well, he's not an investor, guys.
I'm an investor, but I'm just,
okay,
I don't use
he's back.
I'm not using it. I actually did want to throw something out there speculation wise, right? All these companies that are getting into crypto, what do you think of PayPal eventually issuing their own crypto or their own stable coin that would help to stabilize prices and currencies across different countries if you have a global business?
I'm not going to play this again, but look what it says. PayPal would need these two things in order to issue a stable coin. So later on, they assume they discuss this actual same topic.
Interesting. I'd like to hear it. That's where I think the long-term play is for them. You get all these people, all these different apps say, look, why hold it in cash? Why hold it as a USD? Make some money on it. Keep it in our PayPal cash, whatever the coin is. Earn some money, right? And you beat the savings rate of banks with, even if it's like a staking thing. And then it allows you to easily convert your money across countries and not have to worry about the exchange rate in either country. Because I mean, American dollar is going down. We know this. They printed $7 trillion. So the value is going down and people are looking for a place to hedge it. Crypto is still seen. I mean, we know that that's a great place to hold your money, but not a lot of people do. So they're just keeping it in the bank. But what if PayPal offered you something that's stable, beats the rate of inflation, and also lets you trade or use it across borders with either very little fees or not having to worry about the exchange rate? I think that's a smart play. Because like, why else would you get into crypto? You know what I mean? Why else would you be getting into crypto? That's
they want to get them in the door too. They just want their users to stick around. They want to get new customers. So there is a reason besides that, but I can't see why they wouldn't do a stable coin. Coinbase has a stable coin. Gemini has a stable coin. So the big crypto exchanges, even Binance, right? And their stablecoin, well, they're not their stablecoin, but their crypto is worth how many billions now? Have you seen there? It's like $600 a coin. It's went up tremendously. It's like in the top 10. I don't know if we want to show that, but all these crypto exchanges, and if PayPal becomes a crypto exchange, there's no reason they wouldn't do that, because they can offer rewards that way too, right?
Yeah,
Stay
right.
within our ecosystem. Here are the rewards.
Look, to that point, the only card that I use now is the BlockFi Bitcoin rewards card. It's the only one I use because I'm earning crypto on all my purchases, except for the card that I use on Amazon, because their deals are so good. They give you 5% cash back. It's so easy. So even me that's wanting to earn crypto on my purchases, I'm willing to not earn the rewards to use the Amazon card because the rewards are so good. And at least once or twice a year, I do a complete cart that's just on points. If PayPal offered something like that, then that could be another one of my exceptions. But at this point now, it's all about rewards. It's all about rewards. M1, it came out hard with their rewards card. So I think maybe that's their play too. Maybe they have you earn crypto on your reward. There's just something more with this crypto play for PayPal than it seems.
But I mean, we are talking now for over half an hour, I guess, and our list for bull case
right.
Bull case gets longer, like crypto, e-commerce, international expansion, and so on. And my point kind of is the current valuation is pretty light. I think it's getting in the undervalued territory currently without all of them, like just compounding the 18 or 20% revenue growth and the income growth year after year after year. And everything that we've discussed so far comes on top of that. That's a free call option with this stock. So
can you go to that? Can we now? I think we're up to this part where we have to see some numbers. We've discussed PayPal. I'm a believer. I'm buying more. So
yeah, sure. Let's quickly.
And guys, I went pretty heavy between 200 and 185. Oh my God, I didn't think I'd go this heavy into PayPal because I never thought it'd be at 200.
It's crazy to me that you go so hard for that for a not guaranteed double, and something like Cardano, or you're not backing up.
Well, no, hold on. It's a guaranteed double. This is a guaranteed double.
I know, but I'm saying I get it, but I'm saying it's crazy to me.
In my mind, guys, it's not financial advice. Let me just put it this way. In my mind,
you're using your own money. Double. You're not.
Just the compounding that they do in revenue growth year after year after year, they are going to continue. And they always have these 2 or 3 quarters where they are kind of stagnating or seem to stagnate. And then boom, fourth quarter, they're up, stagnating, boom, up, stagnating, and even a small dip in the first quarter, boom, up. And the same is going to happen in the upcoming fourth quarter. They guided for $6.9 billion in revenue. I mean, just visually, it's the same. Like they just continue, and over the course of 40 years, they essentially doubled from $4 billion to $8 billion their revenue, right? And everything that we've discussed comes on top of that, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you're estimating. Just let's go to the last quarter that they've announced. 21 Q3 is right there.
Yeah.
Their revenue, and I do want to talk also about their free cash flow, because it seems like their free cash flow is actually growing faster than, because they're buying a lot of stuff. Is that why? Is that why the revenue was down? I wanted to make that little point.
Yeah, I mean, cash flows are pretty healthy now already for 3 years, with the exception of third quarter last year, over $1 billion, $1.5 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their business is very capex light, so just a couple of $100 million in capex each and every quarter, so they can really keep that cash and do whatever they want with it. And partially they are buying back stocks. They are acquiring companies like Paidy. So again, $2.7 billion. So that's like a little bit more than the last 2 quarters. Boom, paid for it without any dilution for shareholders.
Is that? I just want to make that clear too, because I wasn't sure. They're buying all of these new companies literally in cash, no stock.
Yeah, mostly. I mean,
that's kind of amazing.
So this is the official guidance, $6.9 billion at the midpoint for the next quarter. And then I'm again assuming that they're kind of stagnating, maybe a little bit. And then boom, fourth quarter, they're up to 8. If we're continuing this trend, right? Mm-hmm. Even I need to say, I am even a little bit bearish on this one. Their annual growth rate, if they hit something like $30 billion in revenue next year, their growth rate will be at the lowest except in 2019, like 16.6% year over year. So that's actually bearish. And also for their margins, I'm assuming a further decline in gross margins from they used to be at 71% in 2015. Now they're down to 58. So that's substantial, right? So we don't have to.
Is there a reason for that? Why is that?
I don't even really know. Maybe like we talked about, lower fees. I don't even know if they have lowered their fees or introduced features that have lower margins. Like I could imagine the crypto revenue is substantially lower margin.
It would make sense probably for them to also put crypto on their balance sheet as well at some point and sort of have a reserve.
Personally hold it.
I mean, it seems like every company who does that, like Michael Saylor did with his company,
they all do well,
their stock just goes up.
Yeah.
The stock goes up.
Well, there's almost no point. You could have bought crypto like yesterday and you'd be up, Right.
Or well, maybe not a day, but if they were smart, they would also put it on for the long term. I don't know if you want to share anything else, but I have sort of similar numbers, but I sort of just took the 18% compounded and projected it further. Do you want to take a look at that?
Yeah, just I mean, my numbers would be 25 billion this year and nearly 30 next year, around $5 billion in net income and around 6 in free cash flow. And you put a reasonable multiple on that.
What multiple do you have?
Well, if we just stay with the same market rationale, let me pull that up here. So 45.
I want to see if our price projections sort of match each other at, because I think we are close in terms of the revenue that I'm projecting.
So let's assume like I had, I guess, $5.2 billion for next year. So maybe over next year, let's grow at another 20%. So the same rate like revenue grows. So we are at a 6. So with a reasonable multiple, with the current multiple, we would be at 250 or so, but PayPal usually trades higher. So I don't know their average, but like 50 or so. We are back to I would say, over $300 billion in market cap in 1 or 2 years. So I think this would be very reasonable to assume.
Well, what percent gain would that be over 221 over what it is now? Just
roughly 50%, I would say.
It is roughly that. It's a 40 something percent, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like a $90 increase.
So that would
$90.
Well, yeah. So the reason I'm going into PayPal is not because I'm expecting a 10x out of PayPal.
No.
I just want some safe money that I don't have to worry about. That I don't have to. Every night I'm worrying if Dogecoin is going to make it. I don't want to do that. I just want a bunch of cash sitting in PayPal instead of a bank account earning 20% interest. Is that right, Lee?
Yeah, right. And
that's basically what we want.
This is our bear case, right? So I think markets could have been a little bit overexcited last summer when it was trading this high. My point is, in 1 or 2 years, the business fundamentals will well justify such a market valuation. And our bull case that we have discussed, like international expansion, crypto, and so on, come on top of that. So for me, it is at least a 50% upside in the next 1 or 2 years, at least.
Okay, great. Yeah, okay. So we went over that. We'll go to a chart in a second, but here I want to share my numbers. Okay. We did an end phase video, which I assume at some point will be on the channel. If you remember the end phase video, the chart looks like it's a beginning of an S curve. People will include a link somewhere, but take a look at that. Yeah. This is not that. This company, at least right now, obviously there's a bull case we've talked about, but I'm not projecting this bull case. I'm just doing what they've done for the last 10 years, basically. Well, not 10 years, 5-6 years. This is what I did. I had 2022, I had estimated 29 billion. Is that what you had? You had somewhere around there?
Yeah.
28, 29?
Yep.
2023, I'm not sure if you did that, but I have 34 billion. And the reason I did this, I'm highlighting this for a very specific reason, because I did a call option. I did a bunch of call options. And I just want to point this out that if I'm right, even in this base case, and they're only growing at 2021 was around 15%, I counted, because of the bad quarter. That was 13% this quarter. 2022, I'm considering 17.8% of revenue growth, and 2023, 17%. The reason this is important is because if you look at the options, right now, if you were to buy it, and I was to get 2024 calls, January 2024 calls, what do I think the stock price will be? That's why I'm buying the options, okay? Because I think I could make an easier double on the options. So I'll go to the prices in a second, but take a look at, if you just project out their 18%. So right now, 2021, $25 billion in revenue, right? Just project the same thing. Don't give them any bull case. Don't do anything. I didn't do this here. At 2030, they're $100 billion revenue company. Isn't that a little bit bonkers?
The question kind of is, in order to grow into this number, they had to kind of win the European market like they did the US market, like with Venmo and all their other services, and maybe also other markets. And that's a question mark. It's possible, but I'm not so sure about that.
Okay, so let's go to 2025. I estimated they're around a $50 billion company.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
A little bit more reasonable, right? Obviously, as soon as you go past 2025, you're in pie in the sky territory.
But it's also inflation. That could be the money that they're making, but it's a matter of how much spending power does that have if we're talking about USD. You know what I mean?
It could be, but I'm just considering if they continuously grow at 17-18%. I'm not even expecting them to grow faster. It's basically 17%. That's what I'm considering. So as long as they can beat 17%, this is a likely scenario.
Yep.
So we are a $100 billion company, 2030, if they continue at 17% compounding. All right. Having said that, let's look at the valuation and why I did the call options. I consider the 9 price of sales. If we're considering that actually accurate, I know there's a PE, but I like using price of sales. Right now, they're being priced at a 9, okay? And if we are pricing at a 9 and we think that's reasonable for this type of growth, like a 20%, 18% type of growth, then this would be overvalued. You know, like pricing it at 13 or 15 or something, that would be overvalued. So we are actually at fair value, in my opinion, right now, today. Basically, if you bought PayPal, you were buying it at what it's worth. Does it mean you can't overprice it later on, like we're talking about with a bunch of bull cases happening and the price of sales increases? Of course you can. That's why I have like sort of these two scenarios that I think are probable. Price of sales of 9 and a price of sales of 11. So 2021, we're ending at $188 or around there. If the market doesn't turn and it sticks around this price, maybe $200 if we're lucky. 2022, I think this is a $260 billion. Remember, I'm not pricing. I just want to make this clear. This is not the bull case of PayPal. This is like, if they just do, just like we said, just keep doing what you're doing.
Boring.
You're a boring company. Yep. You're just going to compound at 18 or 17. In my case, it's 17%, roughly, that you're going to compound at 17%. This is what you should be worth if the market priced you sort of correctly for this type of growth company. So 2022, 260 billion to 318 billion valuation. And it's a pretty big difference because we're between $222 and $272. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that's the range we're going to be in sometime next year.
I think it could be higher.
I like what you're saying here.
Look at the trend. This is where you got to look at the chart and just see where the trend is going and see if they're still in that.
Well, why do you think they should be higher if they're valued at this price? Do you think the price of sales is higher? Why do you think it's higher than this?
Just looking at their historic multiples, I think they're being undervalued by the market right now compared to where the market has valued PayPal before.
So there's a site that shows these price ratios, price to sales ratio. Here we have, if you look at the price to sales ratio of PayPal's history, it is not higher. So it is around 6, maybe 8. Let's say 7. Let's say 7 is the average.
And the earnings?
This is the price to sales ratio for the past since 2017. Oh, and the earnings you want to see. So my point is that if I'm pricing it at a 9, which is around,
that's high, yeah.
It's around here between at around 9, and this is all higher stuff that it was priced in this past year or two. But this past year or two is sort of like an anomaly. I don't know if you would consider that exactly the way PayPal should trade.
Well, I think a lot has changed in the last 2 years. I think it's reasonable to assume that 2 years ago, the outbreak of the virus essentially has triggered for a lot of companies like a boost in growth, such as, for example, Etsy, but also other e-commerce platforms. And a lot of people kind of found out, okay, that's actually pretty convenient to order something here and there online. And PayPal is going to benefit from that. So I think it's reasonable to assume that also PayPal is going to continue to ride on this wave of success of e-commerce, right?
So what are you saying their price to sales should be? Let's make an actual semi-prediction here.
Well, I think the 9 is reasonable that you did, but I think on the price to earnings, because they're so capex efficient, I think it's reasonable to put a higher multiple on that.
And this is the historical PE ratio going all the way back to 2017. They were between 36, let's say 35, and the highest was 80. Yeah. And this was back in 2020, by the way. So that's when it took off.
Yeah, that's what I meant, right? So we are down at a PE ratio That's pre-pandemic.
2017 levels.
So
Yeah.
we are back to, right, if you look at it, we are back to 2019. So yeah, I think I agree with you that we can see a little bit more out of this, like a 50, 55, right? Somewhere around there?
Yeah. And
Okay.
is there also a cash flow multiple?
Price to free cash flow ratio.
Yeah.
So, well, in the past they were as high as 126, but it seems like the average is around 30.
Yeah.
And they're at 44. So,
Interesting.
yeah. See, this is why I'm saying that it seems like it's fair value. Like, this is why I was going back to, like, it doesn't seem like it's overpriced or underpriced at this current moment. But this is not considering everything we've talked about in terms of the bull case of PayPal. And if they do take on these bigger markets, then I agree with you. It's a more of a rocket ship than I'm predicting. I just want to be very clear that I want sort of like the base case. So 2022, we discussed $222 to maybe $272. 2023, 260 to 318. 2024, $357 to $437 share price. And remember, the good thing about PayPal is they're not diluting us. They're actually buying back shares. Is this funny?
You're at a 420 billion market cap at stock price of 420.
Yeah, oh, yeah, this is funny.
Of course, I was looking at that too. Next year, 69 billion, 690 billion.
Boom, boom. It landed right there perfectly. I did that on purpose. But 2025, 420 billion, $420, 513 billion, and 500. So anyway, between 400 and 500 bucks. Let's say I am wrong in my bear case. This is my bear case. I just want to be clear that I have an easy double, I think triple. Like I'm being pretty bearish that they're not going to do what you said, and they're just going to 17% compounded. Market is not going to take that into account. P is not going to go up. Price of sales is going to stay at 9. My point is, some money has to be safe. But if anyone wants like a 10x in this, I think that's gone too. I don't think we're both discussing that, right? We're talking about a 2-3x here. Am I correct?
Well, at that market cap, come on. Although SoFi, he did say he wants to be the world's first $1 trillion fintech company.
And they're only at like 20 billion. So they do have a chance to go to 200 billion at some point. So that's
not even close. They need to 10x and then 5x that to get there.
But they make no money right now. They lose money every single quarter. PayPal makes money hand over fist, as Lee went over, and they're literally paying in cash. Yep. Imagine the briefcase they show up with in cash when they buy a company.
Dump truck.
Yeah. No, I agree that a reasonable base case would be like a 2, 3, 4x in the next 5 to 10 years, and a bull case could be a 10x, like with Tesla, right?
Yeah,
a really strong bull case. So that's not off the table, in my opinion. But with PayPal, I guess you're getting a very solid growth company that's compounding at a very stable growth rate at 16, 17, 18%. Very stable for years and years. So it's reasonable to assume that this will continue. And if online and e-commerce buying takes up pace even in the next couple of years, PayPal will ride on this wave of success along, right? And every kind of radical new feature comes on top.
But what do you think is the actual probable next year's price of PayPal for 2022 at the end of the year?
Well, let's stick with the price to sales multiple of 9. So we have some historical support for that, right? So 30 billion in revenue times 9, 270 billion in market cap. So
200 something, right? 205.
200s, yeah, would be reasonable. Let's put the, what was it, 45 PE on.
You're saying 250? Is this what you're saying? 250?
205, like would be reasonable next year.
205. Yeah. No, 250. He's saying
250.
Oh, sorry.
And 270.
205. I'm getting out of PayPal tomorrow if it's $205 next year.
And let's kind of compare that with the free cash flow. So I believe they can do something like 7 billion in free cash flow. What was the multiple on that?
The last one was 45. Yes.
5 or so, right? So 7 times 45 would be 315 billion. So maybe a little bit higher. So between stock price between 250, 275, maybe, supported by multiple metrics and multiples, right?
Yeah, and I want to be clear, like I agree with you, that's probably what's going to be at somewhere around the 250 mark, unless the market gets heated again. What happens when interest rates go high, if that happens next year? Does PayPal take a hit, or do people go to PayPal for safety? That's a whole other thing that can happen, because why would you want to be in SoFi that makes no money? And wouldn't you rather be in PayPal? And I think Square is profitable too. Am I wrong? Are they profitable yet?
Slightly.
But so it's still two profitable companies. Wouldn't you rather be in those companies if the interest rates go up than in the fintechs that are just starting out?
It's interesting. If interest rates go up, do people move also strong into crypto? Because then that would support both Square and PayPal, right? And if interest rates go up because inflation is higher, do people spend more because they're afraid that prices go up, right? So they spend more, so more process volume for PayPal, more revenue, more income, right? So I think this would be in support of both Square and PayPal.
Right. And do you think, just as a curiosity, do you think SoFi and other players like that would suffer, or they would benefit from this? Because they have crypto too.
I don't know them enough. It really depends. I thought that in these times when inflation fears are high, that crypto would like take off way strong. Like I would have thought that Bitcoin would be easily at like $100,000 if we have inflation fears like we have them now, right? And it didn't happen.
I think until crypto is seriously regulated, where the big boys know what the sandbox is, know the rules, I don't think it's still gonna be seen as the hedge against inflation. Because there's still we don't know what every month they come out with something new that they're gonna regulation that they're gonna apply to crypto. And so I think until it's actually heavily regulated, where it's clearly understood, the lines are defined, I don't think you're gonna see that as the hedge.
But what do you think? I'm actually kind of interested because I invested into Square and also PayPal a little bit, because you can buy these companies or stocks and ride on the success of the crypto wave, but with less volatility. So less downside, also less upside, obviously. And also Coinbase would be in the same ballpark, or SoFi. So what are your thoughts on that? Like
in terms of like buying crypto or buying these companies, is this what you're asking? Yeah,
it's like an implicit or an indirect investment into cryptos, right?
I think you should. Let me answer this, and then Carlos has a longer answer. I believe you should buy your Bitcoin and you should buy your Ethereum. You should have that because you're buying a proxy for something that is in the history of it has doubled. Just if you look at the statistics,
202% every year. 200% every year for 12 years.
You can say it's down 1 year, like next year. Let's say it's down after the run and it collapses. The fact is, if you're a long-term holder, that won't matter to you in 10 years. It just won't matter. Crypto has a way, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum, have a way of erasing any negativity as long as you're there for multiple years. So 4 or 5 years out, you're probably, I can't guarantee anything, but you're probably going to be way up on your position, probably double every single year compounded. And I don't think PayPal is going to do that for us.
No, they're not. But what do you think about potential regulations? Like in China, I think they're pretty moving aggressively against crypto.
Well, they've been doing that for like 5 years.
In India. I mean, India has the highest percentage of crypto holders under 35, and they just banned it. I mean, I think that's why you were seeing these massive dips recently. But then the Americans, the Europeans, and the Australians are rushing to buy it from them right now, and that's why you see these spikes. So it's kind of bulletproof, because as long as there's places where it can trade and people do believe in it, if these massive dips come, it gets bought up.
Well, I have to say, this regulation thing was a concern 4 years ago, what you're talking about. The fact is, now institutions have been buying crypto. They have it on their books. Large corporations have it on their books. They missed their window of shutting it down, or at least controlling it in some respect. So now all they're going to do is regulate it, which is fine. Well, I mean, big deal. So we want it regulated because me and you are investors. We're not in the whole belief system. I want to go live in a bunker with my Bitcoin. I don't care about that. I just want it to go up. I want to retire well. And that's it. That's most investors' mindset. And now look, JP Morgan they're mining Bitcoin. Okay. As soon as Jamie Dimon is mining Bitcoin, I mean, it's game over. Like, they're pushing the laws to help basically stabilize this industry in a positive way for the billionaires. So I don't think it's going away. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I also don't think that it's going to go away, but I'm guessing a little bit that governments and central banks aren't really happy with that. Again, as you mentioned earlier, they're essentially taking on the fiat money system. I could see some short-term hiccups here and there.
Oh, no, there absolutely will be. There absolutely will be. But let me ask you a good question. Let's say you buy some Bitcoin, okay? My thesis is not Bitcoin is used for coffee, by the way. That's not my thesis. So you buy some Bitcoin, you put it in your wallet on Coinbase, you earn some interest on it eventually, like a bank account. Is your objective to go spend that Bitcoin? like a gold brick, like you would go into some shop and buy your Maserati?
No way.
No. So fiat is not going away. Fiat is going to be used for buying all the garbage we want to buy, and Bitcoin will be gold 2.0. I don't see any problem with that, and I think a lot of Wall Street has no problem with that.
The all-time high in Turkey is fiat currency. Lira goes into free fall.
Well, you're talking about a country that has unstable currency. We're talking about the United States dollar and the euro.
And we're not immune to that either. I mean, I'm seeing it now. You're seeing gas prices. You're seeing lumber.
That's inflation. That has nothing to do with the collapse of the United States dollar.
But the people's value is being eroded from them. The value of their dollar is being eroded from them. This is why I say, even if PayPal is making, $100 billion a quarter, what is it worth at that point if they continue to print money? It could be worth what $1 million is today. We don't know. And so the numbers, when you go too far out in the future, we need to know what the value of that's going to be in order to know companies, the whole point we invest in equities, to your point, we invest because they keep up and beat inflation. So what you're saying is not accurate. They will beat inflation. Just like when you go to Walmart and they raise it 10 cents for whatever, they will beat inflation. That's why people run to these companies. PayPal will just raise it 5 cents every transaction. They will do fine. Me and you as the consumers might suffer, but PayPal will not suffer from this. Well, what I'm saying is like, for example, they just bought a company for what, $5 billion now? What would that company cost them? If buying that company cost them $50 billion in 5 years, then it's the same. It's a wash. It's the same amount. It's the same value is what I'm saying. Even if the number's higher, it's like us with our homes. Our home values are going up. They're going up because the market is going up. So yes, there's the inflation value, but it's really the same value. Like now what we're saying is $750,000 is the same as $500,000 was 2 years ago. That's what I'm saying. So
I know I get what you're saying, but I don't think these companies are just keeping up with inflation. I'm saying they're beating inflation. I don't know, Lee, if you want to throw some 2 cents into that.
Yeah, as far as I understand, like Bitcoin has the exact opposite effect in it, baked in it. Per definition, it's deflationary, right? So as long as demand stays at least stable, prices will go up, and if demand even goes up a little bit or strongly, the Bitcoin price will skyrocket, right?
Right. It's exponential.
Yeah.
Well, what about the company? Like, I think he's bringing up correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying that one day PayPal is doing something and it's paying $2.7 billion for Paidy, and then 2 years from now it's paying $5 billion. So what's they've done nothing basically. They've because the money has gone up, but they actually have not beaten inflation, right? That's what you're sort of claiming?
That's assuming that the company will be exactly the same as it is today, but it's not. Like the company would evolve also without PayPal and create value and create modes that have their own value. So I think with 2.7 bill, they got a pretty neat deal to implement in a timely manner, pretty quickly, the buy now, pay later.
Well, it's like you were saying about consumers. When they know prices are going up, what do? They go run out and buy. Companies aren't stupid. They just go out and buy everything that they want to buy now, because why wouldn't you? Why are you going to pay $5 billion for a company if you can get them at $2 billion? Even if you don't know what you're going to do with them yet, get them now, put them on your books, let them run for a few years, see what it's all about. But I think the ultimate strategy is to create this one super app that does everything, a cross-border store of value, all your transactions from micro to macro. Like you said, a marketplace, having an online marketplace. That's how you really grow this thing, so that they're all just sort of feeding each other.
I think
Kathy would say S curves feeding S curves.
Well, yeah, Kathy would super bullish. I love her bullishness. Let me show you the monthly chart of PayPal since inception here. Okay, I think Lee, did you see me show this chart at least once before?
Just get rid of the RSI so it takes up more of the screen.
Well, no, I have to show that. It's part of it.
Oh, okay.
If you look at PayPal over the last, since July 2015. I mean, this is not like I'm a super genius here. Once again, my background is not investing in stocks, okay? So, or timing the market or anything. But this looks like a pretty nice uptrend here for the last 6 years, no? So it trades between these green lines, obviously, and this orange line, it does dip below it occasionally. But the last time it dipped below this orange line was in the breakdown in March 2020. Okay,
which is, I mean, it doesn't really count. The entire market came down, so it's like everybody suffered.
Well, but still, it's still a part of history. That's what happened. Look what happened the following month. Everything came up, but it went right back into the trend, right at the bottom of it, right at the bottom of this orange line. So if I'm going to zoom in a little bit now, we can get a little bit closer. Okay, so where are we now? This is why I find this super interesting.
Before you go any further, the other thing that's interesting is PayPal has never had more than 3 months in the red. If you look, there's only ever been 3 months of decline across the whole history. So that would tell us that next month should be a green candle.
So here we are at month 3. It's not over yet. We're going to see where we end, but then, and this will be interesting because will it break with the past on just the charting aspect of it? Forget about everything else because there's a bullish case for PayPal. We know this, but I like the technicals because they're so interesting. Like I would bet that sometime next month they start to go up. That's what I would bet on, you know? But okay, so we have this. Let's get a little closer. So we've broken down underneath this orange line. And now we're sitting here at support from back in 2020. This was around August. It actually lasted for 5 months. You can see 1 candle, 2 candles, 3, 4, 5. We had this base of support building at $183 or so, okay? And it touched as low as 174. That's why I said this is possible that we hit 173, 74. I would be shocked if we go lower, but look, anything can happen, right? So if we're sitting here, it's like, what is the opportunity? If we are correct, all of us discussing it, Lee, especially since we put a lot of money into it, this seems like an opportune time to buy, even if it does go lower to like the 150, 160. I still say, like, the people on the sidelines, what do you say to them?
Well, the technicals are very much in favor of what you're saying. Like, never had 4 months in a row red. When it did break out of this channel, it did very briefly, and in March 2020. So when everything was down, like the market was panicking, like completely irrationally. So I think the fundamentals are strong. They're not like super exciting, but they're strong, and everything speaks in favor of what you're saying. We should start seeing a green candle in December.
Even if we don't necessarily shoot up back into this channel, I think, I mean, I would be shocked if it goes like you're really discounting PayPal tremendously if it's dropping below here, right? Like, so if anything, I would say it would trade in a range for a while until it recovers, maybe back. The positive side, I pointed out as before, but if we do return with a massive green candle back to $230 approximately, right? Maybe I think 220 is like the lowest when it goes back into the orange channel. If we return there for 2023, it looks like we're over $300. That's what it looks like.
Yep.
If we're actually back into this. Let me go to the daily now.
The thing is, what's weird about this stock right now is that if you're a fundamentals trader, there's a lot of reason why you would be bullish, but also on a technical level, it's like the fundamentals and technical are both telling you, they're confirming each other that this is, if you've been waiting to buy, this is about as ideal of an opportunity to buy on a fundamental side and a technical side. So if this price is still too high, then you're not an investor. It's like, what do they say? For the person who has no belief, the price is always too high. And that's what they were saying about Tesla all those years.
It's true. Yeah.
If this doesn't confirm it, it's a good time to buy, then you're just not an investor in PayPal. You're just not bullish.
So as to a little bit more technicals, because I find these fascinating, honestly. I'm always shocked that more people just don't pay attention to this. But look at this. Look at the RSI for the daily. It's so rare that it is down. Let's go back to March. This is a good time to go buy. Here's March 2020. Look at the RSI. We're dipping below this. Like, I did 2 trends. One is really low, like super low, like in the 20s. And the other one is below 37. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
So this dipped below the 37s where it likes to go. You see it touches the 37 a lot, actually. It's sort of, oh, let's go back up. Touch it. Oh, let's go back up. That's what it seems to like. But even below that is like so bearish. So here we are at the 37 in March 2020. It didn't even go into like the 20s, which is crazy. Okay. So now let's go to today. Look where we are. We're in the 20s. Mm-hmm. So the only reason this could be is because we are fundamentally mistaken in everything we said the last hour. You get what I'm saying? Like, everything we said is completely wrong. They are failing. They're dropping. It's not going to be 18% compounded. It's going down to like 10%.
37 was a support. Now it's resistance on the RSI.
Yeah, and we're as low. We were as low as 21. Like, this is like getting creamed. Okay, so just on technicals alone, forget about the any case of bullish or not. It's supposed to rebound. So if you're watching this even as a short-term trader, I would be shocked if we don't get this massive green candle into over $200. I'd be shocked just because there must be traders watching this. It's got to be. The other thing, the last thing I'll point out, this is the new chart I started following. It's called, for anyone interested, it's actually
dark pool oscillator.
Yes. Oh, yeah, there it is. It's called the DIX Dark Pool Oscillator, which is the shares being traded not on the public markets. Now, I don't know how accurate this is. I actually don't know, but we should check how accurate this is. And I've seen other YouTubers who do technicals track this. That's why I put it up. People have been buying it right now. So it's not negative. That's when they're selling it. Right now, they've been buying it. Whatever that means, that the trade's not on the market. I guess the big hedge funds or whoever trades this, they're buying it up. Say it again?
The big fish are hungry.
The big fish seem to be buying quietly, very quietly, without telling everybody about it. It's being hidden
by all the selling. The thing is, it's being hidden by the selling.
No, this isn't public, by the way. This is not public. These are trades that happen between like large companies and hedge funds and whoever else. This is not on the public markets.
Right, but I'm saying if you look at it, if you just go back over the history, every time that metric, the DIX 60 is pumping, the stock price is also pumping. So right now, if they're buying, it's being masked by all the selling that's happening.
Well, whichever way it's happening, this looks to me like another bullish signal. So I'm using the RSI. I'm using the fact that it's being bought up in the background. I'm using the fact that it's hitting its resistance points and not resistance, but support points right here. That it seems just on a technical basis, even if you didn't care about PayPal for 2 years like I do, I'm going to hold it. I don't care. But it seems on a technical basis, next month is going to be extremely happy for anyone watching this.
Well, we're going to know. We're going to know next month.
This is not financial advice. This is my opinion, and that's it.
But it's good to have these sort of short-term things because this will play. We don't have to wait 5 years for this to play out. We'll be able to see.
I even called it, oh my God, zone.
No, I completely agree. But one last point.
Yeah.
One reason why PayPal might fall off a cliff currently is that COVID cases are surging in Europe. And there are a couple of articles online that say, okay, maybe for that reason, people start saving more. They buy less in stores, maybe more online, but less in stores. And overall, the transaction volume will trend down. But obviously, this, in my opinion, will be a short-term hiccup.
Fourth red candle might happen, but after that, we're off to the races.
It could be for that reason, right? But we wouldn't know until they would publish their report for the fourth quarter, which will be in January, February or so. So we wouldn't know until then, except if they kind of initiate a revenue or earnings warning pre-report.
Right.
I think people still. I think this fourth quarter is typically higher volume than the rest of the year, regardless, because of Christmas, end of the year.
Yeah.
And so, I agree with you. Yes, maybe people would save, but I just think it's going to be masked by just the amount of purchases that happen at this time of the year, starting right now, literally, tomorrow, Black Friday, at the end of the year. It's just purchases and sales, and the companies that are selling the products that people would use PayPal to purchase are going to be pushing. They need to generate revenue as well. I think overall you're going to see a peak in consumer spending. I think people are tired of living with COVID.
Yeah, I'm actually of the belief that this COVID thing won't matter in terms of spending.
Yeah, I don't.
Obviously, people's lives are different, but in terms of spending for Christmas time, Q4. Oh, I think PayPal is going to kill it. And this crypto thing that's not being considered.
And for the first year, they have access to the crypto money when it's in the middle of a bull run. So maybe this is like exaggerated for what their fourth quarter will be. But if they've got any percentage of that Bitcoin traffic, I mean, just look at Coinbase. How much?
And so between us three, this is not financial advice for everybody else. Call options for 2024, or even I look out further. I don't like buying call options for 3 months out. I think that's dangerous. But honestly, I might pick up one or two, but just if it's really low on Monday, a call option for 3-4 months out, this could be a windfall because Q4, I think even our numbers that we have currently, the projected numbers, I think they might beat that.
Yeah. We don't know how bearish they were when they issued guidance, right? So they could have already factored that in. Right. We don't know that.
Interesting. Okay, guys. Well, that was a long episode. I hope you enjoyed it.
43. We got to get it down to an hour. I'm telling you, we got to get it down to an hour. It's a lot.
Guys, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell for more conversations with Lee. And we'll see you in the next one. And Lee, you want to get one of yours?
Yeah, sure. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys in the US. Thanks for sticking around. If you're still around now, you definitely should subscribe to both of our channels. Hit the thumbs up so that more people find this video. And yeah, thanks for sticking around, and see you in the next one, I guess.